Hello, and here I am again to talk about another one of my favourite actors, and that's Sylvester Stallone. Absolutely adored him, but not from my childhood. From the age of 18, I was going through a breakup, and I found Rocky 3. And for some reason, that film inspired me, and I found myself wanting to see more and more of Sylvester Stallone. So I'm giving you my worst to best of only the ones that I've seen. So I'm going to begin with Oscar. Oscar for me is a waste of time. It was a misfire for me, more so than Stop or My Mom Will Shoot or Rhinestone. It had Stallone doing humour, and it felt like a fish out of water. It didn't feel right. There was just something wrong with this film. It's ugly. It's set in a horrible era. It's manic. Everyone's running around like it's some sort of stage play. I don't know. I get nothing from it. And I don't think anyone else did. So I'm putting that right at the bottom. Oscar's at the bottom. I won't rewatch it. I don't want to. So, what would I pick next? I'm going to pick the Expendable franchise. I don't like these. I've already explained this in my Arnold Schwarzenegger worst to best. So I'm going to pick all three of the Expendable movies and put them right after Oscar. They bring nothing to me. And I love all the stars in them. Absolutely nothing. It's got all the ingredients, but it makes a terrible meal. And they wanted to keep serving more of this meal to me, and I'm a fussy eater at the best of times. So after the first one, it was like, okay, I'll try and have some of the second one, and the third one. Oh God. Anyway, done that. Expendables, not a good film. Next for me, this is tricky. Rambo 3. Rambo 3, again, it's got all of the elements. It's got Stallone, it's got more of the action, more with Afghanistan, is it? I don't know, man. But this series has spiraled into this action, high-octane, machine gun dwelling war hero. I don't know, man. It's just become so unrealistic. Like, the first one is an absolute beautiful movie. The second one's alright. We're not going to go about that yet. We could talk about them later. This third one, I didn't really like it. So we'll leave that one there. Okay. Driven. Driven is drivel. If you want to see Stallone in a CGI-infested mess of a Formula 1 or whatever sort of car it is, he's picking up coins with his tyres. He can choose which tyre he picks up the coin with. That's how good of a driver he is. It's that unrealistic that they have CGI cars. They could film this, but they choose to CGI it, and it's that era of CGI where it's just the throwing. It's just awful. It's awful. Rennie Harlin, who I genuinely think is a good director, drops the ball with this one. He's done A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, which, for someone who had no experience, phenomenal job he does with that. He also did Die Hard 2, not so good, but he's learning. He did Cliffhanger, pretty good. But with Driven, it's not good. Next, for me, is Judge Dredd. I've tried to like this. It's, I remember back in 1995, I had the choice of seeing Judge Dredd or seeing Batman Forever for the second time. And I said, I'm going to go see Batman Forever again. And I missed Judge Dredd at the cinema. And I didn't really miss much, because it's not very good. it feels cheap. It feels cheap, and they've spent all the money on Stallone. He looks great with blue eyes. That's the best thing I can say about this film. The visual effects are piss poor. The acting, they're trying their best. But there's something about this that feels poxy and small and contained, like it's all done in a studio. There's no depth. And for me, that's why it scores here. Next for me, for rewatchability at least, is Nighthawks. This one bores the hell out of me. Stallone looks great with a beard in it, and Billy D. Williams looks great too. But that's all I remember from it. It's a very forgettable film. And that's all I want to talk about that. Okay, so what do I hate more than the other? Because I want to get to the good ones. Like, I do love Stallone, but he's done quite a few poops along the way. I'm going to go with Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, even though I do like this film in my own weird way. It's very silly, and to keep rewatching it, like, there's rewatchability. It's like, I don't know if I feel this one. But if it was on TV and it was on, I'd probably sit there and watch the entire thing. It's not horrific, but it's also not very good. Now, people will say to me that this is wrong, and I'm crazy for saying this, but Demolition Man. I think Demolition Man is one of the most overrated films I've ever seen. Again, it's got all the elements. It's got Sandra Bullock. It's got Wesley Snipes. It has... Is Rob Schneider? Is he in it? He's not in it, is he? I don't know if he's in it. I've forgotten. It's got the guy out of Beetlejuice in it, the fat guy. And it's set in the future, and I don't care. I don't care. The storyline's poop. Okay. Avenging Angelo. I've seen this one twice. Do I remember it? Yeah, I remember it. It was alright. I didn't mind it. It was a bit more grown up. And I thought, this one's alright. It's not too bad. So I'm putting Avenging Angelo there. Then we have ICU, which was in the same year. It's called Detox in the UK. But I think in America or across the sea, it's called ICU. Nobody saw it. I think over here in the UK, I think it was straight to DVD. And then another one of them is Get Carter. This is a remake of a film from the past, and Stallone thought he could have a go, and you know what? His acting in it is pretty good. Is the film any good? No, it's very slow paced, not much goes on. You get the title, but you don't get the guts of the original. Then I'm going to go with Ants. Ants, Stallone's not the main character in this, but he plays a big character, but it's CGI animation, like it's just vocal talent, so, but I've seen it. Okay, now I'm going to go with Tango and Cash. I go into depth about how silly this film is on my Arnold Schwarzenegger review. It has all the elements, but it's executed in such a poor way. Stallone's an unlikable character in this, and he's not fun or anything like that. He's square, and he's supposed to be, but it feels odd. It does feel odd. And the music's horrendous. And that's that one. And then we've got Rocky V. I adore the Rocky franchise, but Rocky V for me is up. I love the first 5-10 minutes where it feels like it's connected to part 4, and then it suddenly feels like it's jumped to 1990, and we are put into this depressing rap infested, because now suddenly Rocky has incorporated rap because it's moving with the times, and it shows. But it's not good rap. You know, it's not rap that you want to go and re-listen. It's not like listening to Vince DiCola from Rocky 4. If you're going to listen to any of the soundtracks, the least, it's going to be Rocky 5's. It's such a poor quality film that tries to be good. They wanted to try and make it realistic and give Rocky brain damage. And the result is he doesn't fight in a ring, and people want to see him fight in a ring. They wasn't ready to see him retire like we grew to in Rocky Balboa and Creed and all that. They wanted to see him fight again, and the box office showed from it. Like, there's not much pleasure from watching Rocky 5. Like, you've had the high of Rocky 4. Like, you're on this edge of this mountain. Literally, there's a mountain in Rocky 4. You conquer the mountain. What next? The only way is down. And that is what Rocky 5 suffers from. Down, down, down. It does nothing but bring you down. And that's why Rocky 5 scores this place. Okay. Daylight. Daylight's one of them films that TV networks would show all the time because it's cheap to show these sort of films. These disaster films where you will have the main star, which is Stallone, and you might get a couple of other recognisable people. The rest of them all are just thrown in because they are cheap. They are filmed in tiny sets, making out like they were in this huge tunnel, you know, with all these... it's just not very good. It's a very claustrophobic movie. And I will lead to my next one, which is Assassins. It's not bad. It's not bad. I like the dynamic between Stallone and Banderas. But there was also another film that came out just before it called The Specialist, which I quite enjoy. And I'm going to place this next. The Specialist was a delight to watch. I've seen it about 10, 12 times. Something like that. I've seen it enough. The chemistry between him and Sharon Stone is bizarre, but it works. And being a young boy, I remember looking at this and thinking, this film's awesome. It's got James Woods as the villain. Like, what more could you possibly want from a movie? You've got Sharon Stone, James Woods, and Sylvester Stallone. All three of them together, combined. That's why I enjoy it. Oh, and you've got Eric Roberts is in this as well. Eric Roberts is a legend, and he doesn't get spoken of enough. So yeah, that's why The Specialist is up there. Let's go with Rambo 2. I don't mind Rambo 2. I think it's a fun popcorn flick, but it's not a patch compared to the first one. Like, I don't get excited for it when I'm watching it. And I should, I guess. I'm a man. I'm meant to like Vietnamese soldiers getting blown up, but I don't enjoy it. You know, the war's long over, and I don't really know what's going on in this film. If I'm honest, they're picking up the prisoners of war. People are turning against Rambo, the American army. I don't know what it is. It's just silly. Like, the first one is hands down a superior film. These are just cash grabs. It's not a bad film, but it's just silly. Okay. Escape Plan. I do like it. It's good. It brings Arnold Schwarzenegger to the mix, and they are like dynamite when they're on screen together in this. Really good. Even though it's two men trying to escape a prison, like, you believe their ages and the way they behave. It's a fun ride. Like, they both do a great performance in this film. I've not seen the two sequels, and I don't intend to. So nobody even bring up the Escape Plan sequels. Okay. Rhinestone. Rhinestone is a good movie. It's a silly movie, but it's good. You've got Sylvester Stallone, and you have Dolly Parton, and she's trying to get him to become a singer because she has a bet with her manager or something like that she can make him a singer, this New York taxi driver. And it's just a fun film, man. Like, this is the sort of film you'd want to stick on with the family and go, let's watch this. Let's just sit here and watch this. Like, it's a very pretty but silly film. And I get enjoyment out of every time. This film gets slated a hell of a lot. Even Stallone hates the fact he did Rhinestone. I don't. He's singing and having fun and showing that life shouldn't be taken seriously. So for that, it's up here. Okay. Lock Up. Lock Up is a prison drama, action drama. It was coming from an era where this was a popular situation for people to be in. We had Van Damme in something similar called Death Warrant. But this one has Stallone, and he's a good guy, but he's in prison, and he sees that people are being hurt, and he sticks up for them, because he's the good guy. And this particular warden's trying to destroy him, and it's good. It's good. I recommend it. Like, there's no surprises, but it's not a bad movie of Stallone's. Okay, next. Rambo Last Blood. I'm going to go with Rambo Last Blood. I didn't mind it. I kind of liked the beginning half. The second half, not so much. But the beginning half, the build-up of the relationship between him and the girl, I thought that was great. Second half, I couldn't care for it, if I'm honest. Like, the more violent he got, the more I don't care. So that's that. Now, this is tricky. I'm going to go with Over the Top. Over the Top is a great family film. Again, underrated. He is an arm wrestling truck driver, and he enters a competition with his son that he's just learning to have a bond with because his mother's just died, and he's now to be in his custody, and he's trying to teach him how to be a real man because his son is all prim and proper and wears a uniform and goes to private school, and his dad, Lincoln Hawk, is a truck driver, and it's trying to show you somewhere the meeting in the middle of the father and the son, and them taking elements from each other, like how to be a man, how to be respectful, how to not make rash decisions, and the bond that you see between the father and the son is incredible. And I would recommend this film to anybody who wants to see what family can be like when it's broken, because building relationships with children from broken homes, it can be difficult, and this film tries to tackle that. So I applaud them for making this a family film. He could have just made it a high-octane arm wrestling movie, but no, they decided to bring in the child element, and it works. So well done to them for that. Next, I'm going to go with Rocky Balboa. I do love Rocky Balboa, however, it doesn't bring much to the mix, and the reason for this is Mason the Lion Dixon. We've gone from having enemies of Rocky's to this guy who is a proper boxer, as in he gives Rocky a chance, who's not elderly, but he's older, and it's like when you have a fight with a young man fighting an old man, you don't know if the young man is giving his all. And I think this is the problem. There's no enemy in this film. You feel for both of them, and because of that, it's hard to cheer on Rocky. Like an old man taking advantage of a champion young man. I mean, ultimately he doesn't win, Rocky, and he's happy with that. And I think, yeah, it's cute and everything, but they could have done so much. They could have brought Adrian back just for a swan song. She could have died in it. They could have done something with it, but no, she's already dead. For whatever reason that was, I think it was probably because of her age, and they wanted to look believable, and Stallone still looked young. That's my guess. So he thought, you know what, I'm going to kill her off because she looks too old in real life. That's my guess. Why else would you not bring her back? She's gold when she's on screen. She's the reason why Rocky and Adrian worked. And in this one, he's killed her off. In my opinion, worst decision. Okay. What next? I'm going to go with Cliffhanger. This is Rennie Harlin when he can direct well. This changed the way we saw Stallone. Like, we always knew he was strong, but like this now, we see him, he is a mountain rescue, and he's barely wearing any clothes, and it's insane. Like, he is at his peak here, for physicality. Like, he looks just insane in this film. And it's a great movie, and John Lithgow is an amazing villain. And the plot's silly, but I like it and I can rewatch it. It's a great film to watch at Christmas because it's got that snowy feel. And it's a great film just to have on in the background if you're doing something but you want some sort of entertainment. So yeah, Cliffhanger's great. Next for me is Rocky IV. I'm going to go with Rocky IV. Even though I love this film, I don't love it as much as the others. The reason for it is it feels so disjointed and disconnected from the other Rocky movies. It does its own thing. It's got its own composer. It's set in Russia. It's so disjointed from the rest of the franchise. It's also very fastly paced in the editing, the dialogue. There's barely any dialogue in Rocky IV. And for every punch that Ivan Drago can throw, we lose dialogue. And we lose some vital dialogue. He did the director's cut, which wasn't bad. There was lots of scenes that were missing. He removed the robot. I didn't mind that. You know, the robot wasn't real. The film franchise, if you watch Rocky 1 and then you watch Rocky 4, like, something's gone wrong here. They've got these fictional robots in Rocky 4, making out you can program the voices. We can't even do that these days, and we've got AI. Like, it's silly, Rocky 4, but it's still good. And it does have one of the best fights and some of the best music, but it is silly, and for that reason I'm putting it here. I'm not going to mention the Creed movies, because really they should be before Rocky 4. So I'm just going to put them just before Rocky 4, and then we'll move on from there, because I do like him in them, but they're not his films. There you go. Right, what we got next? Next for me is one that should have done better. It is renowned as a good film, and that's Copland. Stallone took a massive pay cut to do this role, to prove to the world that he could act. But by this point, not even this role could save him. But the movie is fantastic. It's about dirty cops, and Stallone is under the pressure of doing the right thing. And it's a great film. It really is. Great cast, great acting, great dialogue. Stallone plays this overweight, semi-deaf sheriff who will not play ball with the other cops because he has to do the right moral thing. It's a great film. It should really be like up in the top 3, but it's not, because I don't rewatch it all the time. But it is great, so I recommend you to watch this if you've never seen it. Rocky 3. Rocky 3 for me was what started it all. I mentioned this at the beginning. So Rocky 3 was an absolute delight. There's so many fights in this film. There isn't much dialogue again. Like, something changed from Rocky 2 to Rocky 3. It's like, you know what? We don't want people sat in the cinemas for 2 hours. We want them to sit in there for an hour and a half, give them 3 fights, lots of music, less dialogue. And that's what they do with these films. So I'm going to go with Rocky 3 there. Now I'm going to go with First Blood, the first Rambo film, whatever you want to call it, that one. It's not a bad movie at all. You get to see some fantastic acting from Sylvester Stallone, especially at the end. Like, it is phenomenal. Like, if he would have got into like proper acting instead of action, he could have been an Al Pacino or a Robert De Niro, I believe. Because if you see the way he acts at the end, the emotion in his face, it's real. It is real. I tell everybody, go and watch the end of the first Rambo film and just try not to feel what he is trying to convey. And if you can tell me that he's a bad actor, I would love for you to show me somebody who was better, that could do this particular role better than what he gives. He gives 110%. I never liked this film when I was a kid. I thought it was boring. It is head and shoulders above better than the rest of the Rambo movies. It just is. I've missed out Rambo 4, Rambo, John Rambo, whatever you want to call it, the one with the CGI blood. It's good. It comes just before this. This is great. So I'm putting it there. Okay. Now, there might be some films that I've missed out of Stallone's that I have seen. You know what? But I haven't missed this one out. Cobra. This has rewatchability. Do you know why? Because it's the epitome of the 80s. It makes you feel like you are in some sort of music video and you don't want to leave it. It's just over the top. Stallone's character is ridiculous. He's this mean machine with a massive heart. Like, he's soft for every hardness, bit of hardness he has about him, his car and all that. There's a softness to Stallone's character in this, and it shows. And yeah, the music in it's great. The villain's amazing. Brian Thompson, he has starred with all of the big ones as a villain or something. He's been in Van Damme movies, he's been in Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. The guy is just so versatile, and he's brilliant as the villain in this. Okay, right. I'm gonna go with the first Rocky is amazing, but I'm gonna go with Rocky. Rocky is great. It's a masterpiece. It really is. But it doesn't quite capture what I want to make it a 10 out of 10. Rocky 2 does. So I'm moving on to Rocky 2 now. Rocky 2 is my favourite Stallone movie. Here's the reasons why. You get thrown straight in after Rocky 1. He's waking up in the hospital, or he's getting taken to the hospital. He's all battered and bruised. And we get a glimpse of him spending the money and getting his wife pregnant because he marries Adrian and she's pregnant, and then he doesn't want to fight anymore and he can't keep a job. And you see the struggle of Stallone's character. He's just trying to keep a job. He just wants to provide for his family, and he's trying his best. He's wearing a suit, he's wandering around places trying to get the job just to provide for his wife, who loves him. She doesn't want him to fight anymore, and Apollo is calling him a coward, and she goes into a coma because she's working too hard at work, and he sits by her bedside because he feels the guilt that he's not done the right thing as a father and as a husband and just as an overall man. And Mickey looks at Stallone, at Rocky, and basically sees him as a child and says, I will stay with you. I've got nothing more that I need to do than I will stay with you. And he sacrifices his own time to sit and pray with Rocky for Adrian to come back out of a coma. And when she does, she tells him to go and win the fight. And that is all he needs to make him feel hungry to go in and have a rematch with Apollo Creed. And we all know how it ends with one of the most phenomenal boxing matches that you'll ever see on screen. You feel every second of the 10-second count ticking down. The bruises on the face, the shut eyes, the absolute exhaustion that you feel from these two men is insane. You feel like you've taken the punches with him. Both of their faces are battered. And this film is just an absolute delight to watch. So Rocky 2 is my favourite. If I've missed any others out, I don't really care, if I'm honest. Hello, and here I am again, but this time not talking worst to best, but just talking about his movies, and that's Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell's been in my life since I can remember. He's been in some of the best films and cult classics that I've ever seen. So I'm going to talk about, in no particular order, some of my favourite roles with Kurt Russell. So, Overboard. This film is a joy to watch. Kurt Russell is so likeable. The plan that he hatches up to get Goldie Hawn's character to stay with him is terrible. However, she was a bitch, and she kinda deserved it. But he takes it too far, but it's heartwarming, and you grow to love the children just like Goldie Hawn does. And the story is silly, but wonderful and heartwarming, and the performances are great. So this one is up there for me. Next, Big Trouble in Little China. When he plays Jack Burton, he's so cocky. Like, this film is a gem. It could have had sequels. Did it need them? No. Like, it's a standalone 80s cult classic with magic and kung fu and karate and girls with green eyes and Jack Burton's one-liners, and it's just an absolute goldmine for quotes. The soundtrack's amazing. The grittiness of the film is amazing. The cast is amazing. Some of the special effects are amazing. Some are silly, but it doesn't really matter. And growing up with this, like, even looking back on it now, I love it. So yeah, Kurt Russell did well with this one. Now, Vanilla Sky. Vanilla Sky is a brilliant remake of a film I've not seen. So this is the only version I've seen. And I think Kurt Russell does a phenomenal job as the Doctor. You really get a sense that he cares about Tom Cruise's character. That he wants to get to the bottom of why Tom Cruise is in the prison cell. And the way he plays him is so fatherly that you just want more of him. It's like he's a protector for him. And Kurt does it so well. So this is up there as well to be talked about. I wish he was in it a little bit more, but what we do get of him, it's just pure gold. Okay, now, which one will I talk about? Stargate. Stargate was great. It was welcomed. It was an adventure. I remember it coming out and loving the special effects, loving to see Kurt Russell again. Somebody who I loved was still up there in the cinemas. So yeah, Stargate, great. He doesn't talk that much in it. A bit like the film Soldier. Soldier is a very cheap but likeable film. It feels like almost straight to DVD. I think it probably was. There's just something about it that makes it not cinema worthy, but Kurt Russell turns up, does his job. He's believable as the soldier, he's likeable as the soldier, and the story's likeable. It's just, from start to finish, if you accept it for what it is, like a cheaper version of some sort of Mad Max dystopian world, it's good. So yeah, I like talking about that one. It doesn't get enough love. Now, I'm going to talk about one which could be good, but I don't really like it that much. But I kind of do it. It's Tango and Cash. Tango and Cash, like, I love the buddy cop sort of vibe that you get from it. However, this one feels like some sort of sketch, making fun of Stallone's characters, Rambo and things like that. And some of the storylines are a little bit silly and hard to believe, like where he dresses up as a woman. And I also hate the soundtrack and Jack Palance's character, where he's obsessed with using the rats and the rat trap, or the mouse traps, or whatever it is. And the music, This silly music that whoever did the score for this film should be ashamed of themselves, because it damages it. It makes it very silly. You've got stuff like Lethal Weapon coming out, and then you've got this, which is silly. But I kind of like it for some elements of it. I love the prison part. I love all that. Could they have made sequels? Yeah. With a better director. So yeah, I'm on the fence with it, but it's not wonderful. Now, what can I talk about next? Escape from New York. Now, the last time I watched this, I didn't like it as much as I used to. It's dated a little bit. Kurt Russell is great. The look that he's got with the patch over his eye is so memorable and distinct and of its time and iconic. And you could have this on posters. You could re-release this character. There's so much potential with Snake Plissken. It's great. The sequel's not great, but I'll still watch it. It has rewatchability for how bad it is in some parts. Now I want to talk about the next one. This is a role that I really, really loved him in, and that was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Again, he's that father figure, a bit like he was in Vanilla Sky, although this time he turns sinister and he ends up being the bad guy. And you just really want to like him. He's so likeable. And he's got, he's a god at the end of the day, and he's searching for something, but his ego, which is his name, overrides everything. And the cost is he doesn't care about anyone but himself. And I think that Kurt Russell, and I think that Kurt Russell does a great job portraying the nice guy and the bad guy. Okay. Another Kurt Russell movie that I really like to rewatch is Poseidon. I love the original of this. I think it's better than this one. But I do love to see a disaster film like this, especially on a Sunday afternoon. You could fall asleep to it, and it doesn't really matter. But does he do a good job in this? Yeah, I think he does. I watched The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes recently. I didn't really enjoy that, so I'm not going to talk about it, but I watched it. Now, Kurt Russell, Sky High. Sky High, even though it's ridiculous and silly, which is meant for kids, there's something about Kurt Russell in this film. The way he plays the silly dad superhero, it's a fun performance. It's showing the versatility of Kurt, and yeah, it's just more gold to see him on screen. I've never seen The Thing, not all the way through. I've seen bits of it, so I can't comment on it. For someone like me who likes films, I don't know what it is about this one, but I've just never thought, yeah, I'm gonna go and watch that, or I've fallen asleep, so I can't talk about that one. What else do we have? Executive Decision. I can rewatch it. It's again another disaster on board a plane, heist, terrorists, whatever. It's not bad. It's not bad. I didn't mind it. The Barefoot Executive. Didn't really like this one. This is where the monkey's picking what. It's predicting what is going to be popular on the TV network, and he becomes an executive using the monkey. It's silly. It's creative, it's original. I just don't see where they were going with this with children. I don't see why children would like this. The plot, children don't know what TV ratings are or care about them. So yeah, it was weird, that one. The Hateful Eight, I've seen half of it, fall asleep every time, so I can't comment. But what I did see was good. 3,000 Miles to Graceland. This one is underrated. It's just great. Like, Kevin Costner's good in it, Courtney Cox is good in it, Kurt Russell's great in it, and it's all about this convention and this heist in this casino or bank, I can't remember, but it's a casino, I think, maybe. And they're all dressed as Elvis to try and rob this place, and it's just great. It's a great road movie. You always feel like you're on the move, which I love those sort of films. Something in the vein of like Wild at Heart, you know, that sort of U-turn, you know, that sort of vibe. So yeah, it's fun. Breakdown. This one's great. His wife goes missing. He's angry. He wants revenge. And he gets it, and it's great. Loved Breakdown. Didn't see that until recently. Tombstone. Tombstone, what a wonderful film. I love a good western. The older I get, the more I appreciate them. There is something calming about watching a western, even when there's lots of gunshots. So seeing Kurt Russell playing, I think he play Wyatt Earp? Yeah. It's just, the supporting cast is great as well. He was made for films like this. Christmas Chronicles. This was a great Christmas film. He played Santa beautifully. It makes me want to rewatch it. For it being a Netflix production, I think it's got longevity. I think that in years to come, when we're all dead and gone, that this film will get rewatched on every platform, because it's a great little film. I've not seen the sequel to it. I hear it's not as good. That's all I know about it. But yeah, The Christmas Chronicles, great little film. Hello, and here I am today to talk about Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. Like, I love Jean-Claude Van Damme. Everybody knows that I do, but I'm going to give you my top 10 list from, it's not even worst to best, it's like the top 10 that I like to watch. I don't even want to diss these movies in any way, because these are a massive part of me. And I know that most of these movies are not that good. But for me, they are. They bring something for me that I can't explain, and it must bring something for others, because about 4,000 people subscribed to my channel because of Jean-Claude Van Damme. I was posting clips of him doing the brick smash in Bloodsport, and the world went wild and started to sub to me. And it was a crazy time, and here we are now talking about Jean-Claude Van Damme. So, in this particular order, I'm going to start. So, at number 10, we've got The Quest, which is Van Damme's own baby of a film. It's an adventure film with a fighting tournament twist. This movie is great because it's a bold attempt at him trying to do something different, but trying to include what he does best, which is fighting. The only problem with this film is we've seen it all before, but the heart that he puts into it and the effort and managing to score Roger Moore to be a part of this really makes it an endearing, rewatchable movie, and I love to rewatch it any time of the year. So The Quest is at number 10. Now for me, at number 9, I've got Double Team. Double Team is a very pretty film. It's very futuristic. We get to see Mickey Rourke, Dennis Rodman, and Jean-Claude Van Damme all in the same movie. Like, what more could you ask for? The only thing that lets it down is Dennis Rodman, because the film itself is actually pretty good. It should have done better. I think if they wouldn't have had Dennis Rodman and cast somebody just that little bit less controversial and ridiculous, then I think this film could have made it at the cinema and done pretty well. Now, what have I got next? Universal Soldier at number 8. People went to see this at the cinema. I do love it, but not as much as the rest. And I think it's because Dolph Lundgren gets a lot of the screen time too. Like, it's both of these actors and characters in this. It's not a particularly just a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. Is it good? Yeah. Has it got rewatchability? For sure. It's a brilliant film. But it's not my number one, and you'll know why. Okay, at number 7, we've got Double Impact. I love rewatching this film. I've seen this film at least 25 times. It's a delight to watch. It's a high octane, which is a word I use a lot, but just fighting extravaganza of these two brothers who are well played by Van Damme. You know, he tries his best. We get to see Jean-Claude Van Damme reunited with Bolo Young. Is it a bit lackluster of a rematch of a fight? A little bit. But the rest of the film is superb. It's got that late 80s hanging on to the 80s sort of vibe. The outfits that they're all wearing are ridiculous, which makes it even funnier, and has an element of rewatchability that I can't explain. I don't know if it's because of the special effects of them trying to do the split screen, making Van Damme play two people, and I've always had an intrigue of how do they do that. Does it look dated? Yes. But do you believe it? Yeah, you believe that there's two twin brothers who are out for revenge for the death of their parents and what's going to happen with their business. And for that reason, it's where it's at. So, at number 6, we have got Lionheart, which is called AWOL if you live in the UK, but we'll call it Lionheart. This film is great because you can watch this any time of the day. There's like a family vibe to it, even though it's a very violent film and it's about street fighting to make money. There is an undertone of family values in there, and you know that good is going to conquer all. Like, it's got that poetic feeling about it. There's just this almost Disney-like feel to it, and I welcome it because Van Damme really chews up the screen in this just by the way he acts. His vocab's very limited in this film, but the power of his eyes and the way he moves when he's fighting is priceless. So yeah, I'm going to put AWOL, Lionheart right here. Now, this is probably a crazy decision, but Sudden Death. I can rewatch this many times because it's a Van Damme doing a Die Hard ripoff, and it's great. Powers Booth is a great villain. Some of the deaths in this film are very graphic, like they don't hold back, and then some of the fight scenes are silly. Van Damme's fighting against a woman dressed as a mascot at an ice skating rink, and that particular fight scene is silly. Like, if they wouldn't have had that, this would be further up the list. That's how much I love this film. It's great. Now, don't shoot me here, but at number 4, I've got Bloodsport. Do I love this film? Of course I do. Everybody loves Bloodsport. But is it my number 1 to rewatch? No, it's not. It's not. I do rewatch it, but it's not the one that I would go, you know what, this is Van Damme. Even though it is, it's just too, there's something missing. I don't know if it's a Hollywood quality to it. So it's not a number 1, but is it a great film? Yeah. And does it have some great songs in it? For sure. And does it have Forrest Whitaker in it? Yes. And is he running around? Yes. And is it good? Yeah, it's great. It's great. Okay, at number 3, I have got Desert Heat. I don't know what it's called in your country, but we're just going to call it Desert Heat. I can't remember what it's called in which place. This film really captures how Van Damme can act. He plays this drunk. It's just such an eerie film. You've got Pat Morita in this movie. They're all in this like diner in this weird town that's getting overrun by these hillbilly bullies that are just taking what they want, killing who they want. And Van Damme's like, nah, I'm not having this. And it also has Danny Trejo as his friend. And it's just wonderful. He's like this friend that seems like a spirit guide on his shoulder. And Van Damme listens to him, and there's just something really like golden about this film. That I love it. And I love rewatching it. Okay, now on number 2. What could it be? It's Nowhere to Run. Again, this utilises Van Damme's acting. I've seen him do enough high kicks by this point and spinning roundhouses and doing the splits that when I watch Nowhere to Run, I want to feel the heart of the story. I want to feel some emotions. And in this one, we get to see Van Damme take to this family. They take him in. We get to see him almost happy with a new family to protect and being a good guy. And I can rewatch this all day long. It's a great movie. Okay. Number 1 is Kickboxer. The reason for it, it's just wonderful. It's got the song Streets of Siam. Paul Herzog does a wonderful job with the soundtrack. It's got gorgeous scenery, some of the best training sequences. We get to see Van Damme fighting what seems to be an impossible opponent, and it's just an absolute delight to watch from start to finish. The music's amazing. I've already mentioned that. I love the training sequences so much. Are they believable? Absolutely no way. We already know that Van Damme can stretch his legs, so that's pulling machine that he's on. It's silly, but we get to see Van Damme dancing, and this film, just watch it. Watch it, don't bother with any of the sequels. Watch this one, because this is where it's at. And that concludes my top 10 Van Damme films. If you agree with me, that's brilliant. I'm really, really happy. And if you don't, then I'm sad for you, because your taste in films is piss poor. Thank you. Hello. I'm a massive Arnold Schwarzenegger fan. I have been since I was very, very young. And I thought, what better thing to do than rank his films from worst to best? Because why not? So, I'm not going to include any of the films where he just got a cameo appearance. Like, I don't want that. I don't want that to be ranked. So it's just going to be films where he's like the main star or one of the main stars. So I'm going to do this from rewatchability. I did a James Bond one recently, and it's all about rewatchability. It's not, is it great or anything like that. It's about how many times can you watch this and go, you know, I can watch it again. I can watch it again. So we're going to do this with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So we're going to start off with my least favourite one to watch with him is Junior. Junior, where do I start with this? I remember seeing the posters for this at the bus stops and thinking, oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger's back with Danny DeVito. Brilliant, because I was young. I think I was about 12. And I remember looking, and I never went to see it. And I love twins, and I love the chemistry there. What was they trying to do with this film? Recreate lightning in a bottle from what they did with twins, keeping it baby themed and doctors and making Arnold Schwarzenegger have a baby. Like, it all just seems like a sketch. They tried to make it into this believable film, but made it a comedy. I don't know, the magic that twins brought to the screen is just not recaptured here. Ivan Reitman should have learned from when he makes something amazing, do not make a sequel or anything like it, because he's just not very good at doing it. He did it with Ghostbusters. He makes an amazing world-changing movie like Ghostbusters, and then makes Ghostbusters 2, which is just not that good. It's not. I have nostalgic feelings for Ghostbusters 2, but it's not that good. So I'm sticking Junior as the worst of the worst for me. Like, I just can't rewatch it. I would sooner watch my next one on the list, which is terrible, but there is some redeeming factors in there because it's his first role, and that's Hercules in New York. I've watched both versions of this. I first started with the dubbed version, so there was an American accent over him, and I watched it for the comedy value. And it's mostly the first 10-15 minutes where he does a lot of talking. The rest of the film is garbage. In fact, the whole film is garbage. I do not like it in any way, shape or form. But to me, I would rather sit and try and rewatch that and get something from that than I would Junior. That's all I want to say about Hercules in New York. It's been done to death. People have talked about it. So it's going to lead me to the next one for rewatchability. And that is Red Heat. I don't know what it is about this film, but I can't stomach it. I can't sit through it. It feels off to me. It doesn't feel like it belongs in his huge library of films, but I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't mind James Belushi as well. For some reason, I just don't like it. And that's all I want to say about that one. Rewatchability. Raw Deal. Raw Deal, that comes next. I did rewatch this recently for the first time in about 20 years. And that's not a good thing. 20 years. It's an Arnold Schwarzenegger film and you're leaving it 20 years before you watch it again. Which tells you all the things you need to know. It was fun to rewatch because I didn't remember anything about it. But the production value is piss poor. It's not good. And then there's another one from a similar era, and that's Red Sonja. I don't like this film. I don't know what they were trying to do here. Trying to make him... He's not Conan in this, is he? What even is he in this? What is this film? Where does it belong? Why did he agree to it? I'm assuming he just signed all these contracts before he started to become a megastar. This must have all been done around just after the success of Terminator, I assume. And he's thought, yeah, I'll do that. Conan was good, it made money. But it's not good, and to be honest, it's crap. It's crap, it's boring. And it's got Bridget Nielsen in it, and for some weird reason, this circle of actors and actresses were all mingling and making films together, and not in a good way. So yeah, I'm glad that one never got any sequels. It's just not very good. Batman and Robin. The problem with Batman and Robin, right, is I do rewatch it. And every time I watch it, I hate myself for watching it. It's like I want something to change each time I watch Batman and Robin. I want to see a reason why Arnold Schwarzenegger was picked to play Mr. Freeze. I want to see why they went for this humour that's not funny. And every time I'm so disappointed. It's just... shit. It's shit. Like, it ruined Batman. Taken, like, by the fourth film, you know what? We're going to do what Superman did. We're going to destroy everything we've built here. And they didn't learn anything from Superman 4. They didn't learn anything from that. And the arrogance of it and the greed from Warner Brothers at that time was so apparent. Like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, this is wrong casting. Awful. Next on my list is Conan the Barbarian. No, it's not. Conan the Destroyer. Conan the Destroyer is a terrible sequel, prequel. I don't even know what. I don't care about the story in this one. The first Conan the Barbarian, is phenomenal compared to this. This is garbage. This is, oh look, we can make something a hell of a lot cheaper because this character is established now. And they expect the viewer to just accept it, and I don't accept it. It's just terrible. It feels PG. Like, the first one is gritty, it's scary, it's brutal. This one, you could show to children, The only problem is children don't want to watch this one. Nobody wants to watch this film. It's not good. And Arnold Schwarzenegger does not carry it. And it doesn't matter that they throw in Grace Jones. It's not good. And I don't want to rewatch it. This list needs to be changed already. Like, I've completely forgotten about all three of the Expendable films. 1, 2, and 3. 3 being my least favourite. And then 2, and then 1. I'm not interested in Expendables 4. I don't even know if he's in it. I don't think he is. Why would he be? Why would he be? But yeah, the Expendable movies, they are terrible. So I'm putting them not right at the bottom, but they're at the bottom. I don't want to say. I see them as cameo performances. They're not good. Like, these are all my favourite action stars, and the ingredients are all there. Like, there's everybody that I would want to see. But then there's also a load of wrestlers and like mediocre stars, and you're like, why are you in this? Because you were cheap enough and you agreed to it. The Expendable films is a bit like that TV show, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. As in, like, nobody wants to do it unless the money's there. You've even got Harrison Ford doing it. And just you know what, I'm not even going to waste my time with these Expendable films. Waste of time. Just don't bother with them. They're not good. Many people will argue with me on this one, but I'm going to go with Terminator 3. Is it better than the other two that he did? Genesis and... Some elements are. But I'm going to go with Terminator 3 for rewatchability. Arnold Schwarzenegger is not likeable at all in this film. I do not care about him. In Terminator 1 and 2, he brings something to the screen. In this one, he's become a meme. He's become a joke of himself. And you see that with some of the humour. It's an embarrassing film to watch, with an amazing ending. The only redeeming factor of Terminator 3 is the ending, because it ends on a negative, by the nuclear war occurring, as if to say you cannot change this. And it leaves a sour taste in your mouth, and it's the only redeeming factor, because Arnold Schwarzenegger's performance in this film is beyond shit. It is beyond shit. It is fucking shit. Right, and I don't even need to tell you the reasons why. I can just show you in one photo. Look at this. There you go. There's my answer. Right, let's move on. Terminator Genesis. This film tries, and at the time I was blown away by them trying to alter 1984 again. And then I saw the casting. And then I saw what they'd done with Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator. Calling him Pops, giving him a human attitude, this father-like figure where he's protecting Sarah Connor and worried about who she gets with and if they're suitable enough. And it's like, we're expected to believe this and swallow this and care for this style. Like, have you not watched Terminator 1 and 2? Do you honestly think that this is what the viewer wants to see? So this is why Terminator Genesis. I mean, there's way too much comedy. It could have been amazing. And is it rewatchable? No. It's not rewatchable because it's got a horrible cast. All of them are good in their own ways, but you put them all together and it's just this ensemble of shitness, and I don't like it. And then I'm going to go with Dark Fate straight after that one. I don't want to rewatch it. I don't want to rewatch it. Even though it's quite a serious film, it's so flawed. Arnold Schwarzenegger's good in this. I think he looks amazing. Until he starts selling curtains. Carl the Drapes man. Like, have you not learnt from the humour from Part 3 and from Terminator Genesis? This is not what people want. They don't want that humour. They don't want it. You've taken James Cameron's baby and started to do this to it. Like this is what people wanted. And they've failed so many times. How many studios have been destroyed that own the rights to Terminator? They keep getting sold on and moved on because nobody wants the way that they've taken it. So that's why I don't like that one. People won't agree with me here, and that's fine. But I'm going to say Kindergarten Cop. I do like it, and it is a good film, but I don't want to rewatch it. It's annoying. Like, Twins is a good film, but Kindergarten Cop. I don't think it's as good. I don't want to rewatch it as much, so I'm putting it there. It's funny and it's cute and it's good to see Arnold do something different, but like, I don't want to rewatch it. I've seen it enough times now. Like, I look at it and I think, nah. And the older I get, the less I want to see it. Kids are annoying. I have kids. I don't need to watch them running around on a screen. Next for me is The Running Man. The Running Man is not a particularly bad film. I think it needs to be remade. But for rewatchability's sake, like, again, this is such a mediocre TV budget feeling, very small production, even though it's huge. The story, the futuristic, some elements I really love, like, but you put it all together and it doesn't quite work. Like, it makes you feel depressed when you watch it. I don't know if it's the lighting. I don't quite know what it is, but there's just something very depressing about The Running Man. Even though it becomes, the hero wins in the end. Like, it's a nightmare from start to finish. That, I don't know, the resolution is just not enough. It's not enough. I don't hate this film because I've rewatched it millions of times, but I'm going to put it there for rewatchability. Now, what we've got next? I'm going to go with Escape Plan. It's a really, really good film. No, I'm going to go with Sabotage, actually. I've watched it once, don't want to rewatch it. Let's move on from that. Now we'll go to Escape Plan. I do like this film. It was brilliant at the time, but it spawned 2 horrible sequels that were cash grabs, and Arnold wasn't involved. And I think the thing that makes Escape Plan work is the fact that it's Stallone and Arnold. They work so well together that it's a travesty that they never worked together more in the past. This film seemed to be overlooked. Like, you've got 2 megastars like that. It's a bit like having Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in a film. Like, this should have been made a big deal of, but it just wasn't. And it's good, but upon rewatching, it's, once you know the plot, like, it becomes a little bit boring, because there's no surprises. At first, you're quite shocked. You think this story's pretty cool, and it is. But it's contrived and it's silly. And I'm going to leave that one there. Okay, right next. I'm going to go with Eraser. At the time, thought it was a wonderful film. The aeroplane sequence, I thought that was amazing. Special effects. I believed it was Arnold Schwarzenegger falling out of an aeroplane. Like, I was so silly. Do I like this film? Yes, but there has to be a particular order of how I would watch or choose an Arnold Schwarzenegger film, so Eraser's going there. The CGI crocodile, terrible. That era where they was putting CGI into everything when they didn't really need to, like, but they look back on that and think, what was we doing? Because the film just doesn't need the CGI crocodile, but that's that. Now, this one's tricky, but I'm going to go with Last Action Hero. This, just the cover, the poster for this film alone, like, is my childhood. However, the film is lacking something, and I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. I've watched it many times, and it's like every boy's dream is to meet their actor, be sucked into a film. Even adults, we're all watching films because we want to escape. And imagine a golden ticket that could take you into a movie world. Everything in this film talks to me, screams franchise material, especially, like, say if Warner Brothers had it, all the different characters that could turn up, this multiverse, all via this cinema ticket. It's a goldmine waiting to happen, but it just didn't quite work with Last Action Hero. I'm going to go with Jingle All the Way. I watch this every year, so rewatchability is like at least once a year. And is that enough to put it higher up? It's an obligation, especially when we've got children, to watch this. Is it a good film? No way. But does it have moments where I'm like, this is like funny or amazing? Yeah, like I do like it. Now, you've got the End of Days and you've got Sixth Day. I'm going to go with the Sixth Day. This concept is wonderful, but for some reason it came out in an era where nobody was interested in Arnold Schwarzenegger anymore. I remember seeing the poster for it and thinking, this is not going to do well, and I don't think it did. But it's good, and do you know why it's good? Because it's got Robert Duvall in it, and he does a phenomenal performance in this, like he does in everything. Like he makes this mediocre sci-fi film great because of his acting ability. He's so good. And Arnold Schwarzenegger tries his best in this one. Right, so I'm going to go with End of Days next. This one was a breath of fresh air. You get to see a broken Arnold Schwarzenegger, an alcoholic, a depressed Arnold Schwarzenegger, something different. Instead of the bodybuilding, confident, inspiring Arnold Schwarzenegger, you get to see the first glimpses of him being broken. And I love it for that. And I think Gabriel Byrne's performance as the devil works so well together. Again, this was that era of Arnold Schwarzenegger where people were just like, it's not going to be very good. It's not going to be very good. Something happened, and I don't know if it was when he chose Jingle All the Way, or because he chose Batman and Robin, but they were consecutive, and it was just like ping, 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 ping. He's losing his star status. So End of Days. It's a great film. Now, rewatchability for me, for Predator. Like, it's a great film, but I don't get off on it like a lot of people do. I'll be, oh yeah, I love Predator, and I look at them and I go, why? Why do you love Predator? And they're like, yeah, but because there's Predator and they're in the jungle, and yeah, but what's good about that? And no one can ever answer me. And it's funny to watch them square because there's something about Predator that's good, but to say it's an amazing film, it's not. It's really not. It's not, and the sequels get progressively worse. Like, just they struck gold once, and for some reason it's created this law. It's like, oh yeah, well, we're going to make, because Alien's got this law, Predator's going to have this law, and they're going to cross paths and all that. I don't care about these Predators. That they don't seem to have any emotions, so why would I care? It's like watching Godzilla and King Kong. Nobody cares, like, because you don't know what the stakes are. You don't know what they're thinking. So yeah, the Predator film is good, but do I want to keep rewatching it? No. Do I want to see an invisible character pick off people one by one? No, because that special effect was done in the 80s, not now. Like, I don't want to see that, so that's why it's there. Okay, I'm running out. I've said Eraser, so I'm going to go with Collateral Damage. I like this film. By this point, nobody cared about Arnold Schwarzenegger films. You've got Terminator 3, this. He goes and becomes a governor. As in, like, you know what? What's the point of me making these films? Even though he's making tons of money, he must have known that his expiry date was there. And Collateral Damage is not a bad film at all. In fact, it makes you feel for Arnold Schwarzenegger. You see him lose his family, and he becomes very bitter and twisted and desperate, and I like that. I want to see that. Now, there is two very serious films that he did, and I'm torn between which one he does the best performance. Now, these films are not particularly that good, but seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger act in them is, because we've been so desperate for the last 30, 40 years to see him acting, and not just like a robot or being the goofball, but being the actor that you care about. The main point that you want to watch the film is his character. You want to believe that he is who he is, and he does this amazing in the film Aftermath. It's a depressing film about a collision in the sky caused by the negligence of the air traffic control guy, and some planes crash, and Arnold Schwarzenegger's relatives are on board and they die. And Arnold is so depressed in this film, and it's just amazing to watch. You get to see him as what feels like a real man. Like, you feel every emotion that he's feeling. and that's why I like this one. Now there's another one, Maggie. Maggie, he plays the father of a girl who has been bitten and she's going to basically turn into a zombie. If you watch this film just for Arnold Schwarzenegger, you're going to have a great time. Like, he plays the father that cares for his daughter so much. He plays it so well. Like, it's just, you want him to be your father. Like, you look at him and you think, you know what? He's amazing. Like, there's just something regal about his performance. Authentic. Like, he's an Austrian. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger playing somebody else in this film. And you believe it. You do believe it. His performance is great. Right. Now I'm struggling. What do I put next? Now, I'm going to say True Lies. I do like this film. It is a well-made production. Arnold is great. The chemistry with him and Jamie Lee Curtis is phenomenal. Art Malik as the villain's pretty good. However, it suffers from James Cameronitis, which is, I don't know, the older I get, the less I like his films. I don't know what it is about them. They are, like, if I start to think about Titanic, I feel a little bit queasy. Not because of it being a ship, but because of how aesthetically, I just can't even describe it, but True Lies is good. And this is why it's up here. But it's not number one for me. Conan the Barbarian. I'm going to put Conan the Barbarian next because it is a wonderful film. And I've rewatched it more times than I can say. But I'm putting it there just because he's done better movies than this. But this I would love to see a sequel to. A new Conan movie, that would be brilliant. James L. Jones' performance in Conan is fantastic. He plays the villain so well. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays believable. I don't even know what he is. What is he? Slave? What is he? Okay, next on my list after Conan the Barbarian is Commando. I wanted to put this at number one for rewatchability because it just has something magical. But I cannot put Commando above the Terminator 1 and 2. I can't. But for rewatchability, Commando. It introduces you to Vernon Wells as the villain. The guy who was in Mad Max as the villain, well, he's back in Chainmail, in Commando, and I could watch this 2 or 3 times a month and still get something from it. It is a complete and utter rip-off of Rambo. And I don't care, because it's Arnold Schwarzenegger's interpretation. He's even called John, just like Rambo's called John. But John Matrix. John Rambo, John Matrix. Who would win in a fight? Like, it's just such a copycat scenario. You could have called him Jack, but no, we'll call him John. So yeah, Commando goes there, but I do love it. Now I'm going to put Twins. Twins is great because you can watch that with anybody. It's a great family film. It's a great film to watch on your own. Does it make you laugh? Sometimes. Does it stay with you? Yeah, it teaches you something about family. It teaches you about the way that you've got to stick together no matter what. And I like that. The message is delivered well, and I received it well. So Twins is up there for me. Okay, now I'm going to go with Terminator 2. Terminator 2 at the time, like, hands down was the best film I'd ever seen. But the more and more I watch it, the more appeal Terminator 1 has for me. The Terminator. Terminator 2 is great, but once you're over all that CGI, watery looking special effect, like, what are you left with? Not much. Not much. It's an action adventure. It's great. But the horror element that you got from the first one is gone in this one. And it's very much more kid-friendly. Even though some of the special effects are quite horrific. You could see that there was toy lines lining up to make toys for this. And it shows. I'm not dissing this film. Far from it. I'll be rewatching this till the day I die. But is it better than the first one? Not for me. Not for rewatchability. Now, next on my list is Total Recall. I think that this film, for the time, for the actor that they got to be in the main star, which is Arnold Schwarzenegger, to play Douglas Quaid or Hauser or whatever name he goes by, this film is a masterpiece. Like, I have rewatched this countless times. It is dated and I don't care. It's a dystopian, futuristic, weirdly attractive future that I would have loved to have seen happen. It's just great from start to finish. The remake or alternate version, whatever you want to call it, with Colin Farrell is just, it, for however good that is in its own right. Like, this is a classic. You don't remake this or even try. Like, it's just so good. Like, there's so much special effects, the scenery, the miniatures, the acting, the cast. Michael Ironside's phenomenal. Sharon Stone is. The guy who plays Cohagen, I can't remember his name. All of them are good in it. It's just great from start to finish. And it will leave you asking questions every time you watch it. So, finally, I'm going to give you my number one. And my number one is The Terminator. I have rewatched this since I was a child, since I was 7, I think, when I watched The Terminator. And it's an 18, and I remember thinking, this film is amazing. I loved this one a hell of a lot more than I did RoboCop. I did like RoboCop, but this is Arnold Schwarzenegger at his best. It's frightening. It's frightening. He's frightening. He does not stop. And the only person that can help Sarah Connor in this is Kyle Reese. The 3 cast members, the main ones in this, are great. The supporting actors, Lance Henriksen in the police station, he's great. The chief, he's great, and so's his couch apparently. Like, this film is so cheaply done, and I think that's what I like about it. I like that they've used their imagination to create the special effects. The sound in this movie is so frightening. Like, if you watch this film on headphones, fall asleep, you're going to wake up when the Terminator's on. Like, it's loud. Terminator 2 is amazing, but it's too polished. This has the grit and the dare and the love and attention that an aspiring filmmaker would love to create something like this, something unique. I'm not dissing Terminator 2, but this one, it's the golden one. It's just, every time I watch it, I get something new. That's what you want from a film. So yeah, The Terminator is the number one film for me, by Arnold Schwarzenegger. You probably won't agree with my list. Don't care if you do. This is about rewatchability for me. If you do agree with it, great. If not the end of the world, is it? Thanks. Hello, I'm back again. Today I'm here to talk about all of the James Bond films, from worst to best. Okay, I have tried to rack my brain for the worst James Bond movie, and it's so hard because my mood changes like the wind. It all depends on how much pleasure, the quality, the rewatchability. This is how I have to base it. Like, do I want to rewatch this film? Like, and I'm going to say that my least favourite James Bond movie is Tomorrow Never Dies. Tomorrow Never Dies to me was an absolute travesty of a sequel compared to GoldenEye. It was rushed, it was awful, and I think it's the worst James Bond film. I get no pleasure from watching this film. It's a paint by numbers. Let's try. I don't know, there's no heart, like, there's no chemistry between James and the Bond girls. The villain is weak. Jonathan Pryce, compared to Sean Bean, like, just everything about this character just is ugly. It's an ugly film to watch. It looks and feels dated. Everything's this red tone, which it's depressing to the eye. So I'm going to put that right at the bottom. And then I'm torn with what comes next. What do I put next? And I'm going to go with Diamonds Are Forever. Diamonds Are Forever has all the elements of a good James Bond movie, but is so poorly executed, so tired in formula, so bleached of colour. Everything about this film is ugly, barring the song. The song is what somehow keeps this film alive, because everything about it is wrong. You've got Sean Connery coming back because George Lazenby didn't want to, and it's so apparent that he's phoned in his performance. I don't know what it was about this 1971 gritty, let's make everything look dull type filming, but it's just ugh. Which leads me to my next one. It's another Pierce Brosnan movie. It is The World Is Not Enough. This film is bad from start to finish. It tries to be good. It has everything that I would want to see in a Bond movie, which is the UK, the Millennium Dome, London. But you've got Robert Carlyle in this position of this terrifying villain from the trailer. This guy who could feel no pain. Imagine that. You could feel no pain. And it's so poorly used. It feels like a BBC drama. As did Tomorrow Never Dies. It feels like an episode of some shitty... Just everything. The casting again. It's like, oh, we need a Bond girl who's hot and popular. She wasn't even popular. Denise Richards. She wasn't popular. She did a couple of films. She wasn't popular. She wasn't classed as a good actress. And it shows. Horrid film. Most people would say Die Another Day would have been the worst James Bond film, but no. After rewatching that a few times, yes, it's cheesy, yes, it's corny, but does it have rewatchability? Yeah. You sit and watch The World Is Not Enough, right, and say to me, you know what, I won't mind watching that again next week. Nobody's going to say that. Nobody. And if they do say it, they're fucking lying. Which leads me to the next one. The Man with the Golden Gun. This film is so... It's lost the plot. It's lost the plot with what it wants the viewer to enjoy. Like, there's people pretending to be mannequins, and I bring this up all the time, but Roger Moore cannot stand still, so don't make him be a mannequin. You can see him moving. Rubbish. Okay, so the next film, in the order of from worst to best, is Live and Let Die. Barring the song, this film is not good, and I've got numerous reasons. They try and justify magic in this film, and it really drops the ball, because we're meant to believe in James Bond, but they introduce tarot card reading, and they also introduce voodoo, and they are trying to imply that it's real, and because of that, it scores very low. Because as an audience viewer in 2024, and after rewatching them, it just doesn't hold up. The boat chase scene is too long. Not a lot really happens in this movie. And I think overall, it's not very good. Which leads me to my next one, and it's Daniel Craig's worst Bond movie, and everyone knows which one it's going to be, and it's Quantum of Solace. This one just feels so disjointed, very poorly put together. A desperate attempt of a cash cow. An unworthy sequel to Casino Royale. a completely different speed of pacing compared to the first one. This one is high octane, but not in a good way. The edits are so quick and rapid that you don't care what's going on. You don't believe what's going on. You're too much in the action. Like, there's too much going on. And it feels rushed. And the theme song is not very good. Just everything about this film just doesn't quite work. But it's better than the ones I've previously mentioned. So I'm putting Quantum of Solace here. And next, I'm going to go with Die Another Day. Although I praised this earlier on, it's still not a good film, but for rewatchability, I would put it straight after Quantum of Solace. Or in front. This one just feels tired, but it's trying to do something fun. Where Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough failed, this one redeems itself. However, there's too much unbelievability in this one, and they're so heavily reliant on CGI in this one that you're sick of it. There's lasers, there's kite surfing, I don't even know what that is. Like, he's using the parachute from an ejector seat as a surfboard. I don't know what he's doing in this scene, but it's ugly to watch. And I keep using the word ugly because it's true. When you're watching it, you can't believe how ugly it is. Like, the effort that's gone into the special effects making is not good. This next one's really hard to decide between. I'm gonna say Moonraker. Moonraker does feel rushed. It doesn't have the attention to detail that The Spy Who Loved Me got. Like, that to me is magnificent, and this is mediocre. They're trying, but it's very desperate. It feels like it's on less sets and more in real life, like estate homes. It felt like they had to hire places to do a lot of the filming rather than build the sets like they usually did. It's not a bad movie. I like some aspects. The theme tune is wonderful. Shirley Bassey does so well with the Moonraker theme. But the plot is silly. And they end up in space, which I don't mind. But Jaws gets disrespected in this one. The way he's portrayed. They turn him into this goofball, idiotic villain that keeps making mistakes all the time and pulling silly faces like this. Next for me is Thunderball. After watching this recently, it just doesn't have the pizzazz that the first three Sean Connery James Bond movies have. It's lost something. It couldn't keep or maintain what Goldfinger brought to the mix. Is it a bad movie? No, that's why it's middle of my list, but it's not memorable for me. It's a bit exhausted. The theme tune's great. Tom Jones does a wonderful Bond theme. But Sean Connery is experiencing some fatigue in this, and not with the way he looks, but just how he's tired of playing the same character. I don't know if many people will agree with me on this next one, but for me it's Spectre. I did do a review on this and the reasons why I don't like it, and it's because the last act is terrible. Everything leading up to that is wonderful. Blofeld is wasted, especially with the acting talents of Christoph Waltz, but I'm not going to go into all of that. Also the colour tone, this sepia brown, overwhelming, boring visually to look at filter. Great theme tune. Sam Smith songs, still great. Listen to that on the regular. But does it make the film rewatchable? No, because it's so drab. Because of the ending. They didn't know how to end this film, and they end it so badly. So that's there. Now, what would I put next? Octopussy. I prefer Octopussy to Spectre because it's entertaining to watch. You can rewatch Octopussy 2 or 3 times a year. Spectre, once if you're lucky. So Octopussy, what do I love about it? I even love the theme tune. It's not a very good one, but it's memorable. I love the joy that this one brings. The scenery in this one's wonderful. Is it silly? Very. But do I enjoy it? Yeah, I like watching it. It's good. Lewis Jordan's a great villain. There is some silly scenes like the Tarzan yell and the tennis humour just doesn't land, especially in 2024. If you don't know who the guy is, the tennis player, then these jokes go over your head. So basing this all on rewatchability, I'm going to go with Dr. No next. I do like this one, but do I want to rewatch it? No. It's too basic. I prefer a more developed Bond. And you can feel that this is in its infancy. Is it a great Bond? Yeah. And does it introduce us to this entire world and franchise? Yes. But do I want to rewatch it? No. And that's why I'm putting it in this position. Okay, so next for me is You Only Live Twice. The concept and the idea of this film is good. However, it suffers from that era of trying to make the imagery less colourful. It's not as drab as Diamonds Are Forever the way it looks, but it feels like it's been filmed on the cloudiest of days. And I don't want that in a James Bond film. I want to escape. I want to imagine being in these exotic locations, and I feel like this one just misses the mark. Some of the set designs are phenomenal, however, it needs just that little bit more colour. I think the theme tune to this one is superb. I could listen to the soundtrack to this film all day long, but the actual quality of the story and the way it's filmed, not so good. So it's one of the weaker of the Sean Connery franchise for me. Next for me is Roger Moore in For Your Eyes Only. I actually like this one. It's very serious in tone. It's not that impressive of a storyline, but the way it's directed and the way it feels more grown up. And there's something about this particular Roger Moore one. It might be the set design. I love the rope climbing scene where he uses his shoelace or his bootlace. I think that's great. I also think that the car chase scene's pretty good. Is it dated? Yeah. Is it quite boring? Yeah. But there's something about this one that I enjoy. It doesn't try to be silly, and I like that. Now I know that people are gonna not agree with this decision at all, but I really don't care, because this is about rewatchability. And A View to a Kill with Roger Moore comes next on my list. Most people vote this the worst of James Bond, but for some reason, I don't know if it's the era, my age, but I love this film. It's not great, and every time I watch it, I don't really know why I enjoy it so much, but I think it's the theme tune is just absolutely out of this world compared to the previous one from Octopussy, All Time High. Like A View to a Kill with Duran Duran, they did an amazing job. Would this film have been better if Timothy Dalton had starred in it? Yes, for sure. Does Roger Moore seem exhausted in it? Yes. But is Christopher Walken an amazing villain? Is the blimp scene an amazing scene? Yeah. Zorin, Mayday. What more do you want from a film? It's a great Sunday afternoon movie. It's not too ridiculous. It's more believable than some of the Sean Connery ones. Like, there's no ridiculous vehicle that is not of this earth. It's an actual blimp. Zorin has a blimp. and it's believable, that he is a psychopath. So for that reason, this is why this score's here. This next film's pretty flawless, and does it deserve this ranking? Yes, and the reason for it is for all of its beauty and what it brings. It's not quite as good as some of the rest, but it's not a bad film in any way, shape or form, and that's From Russia with Love. It's a bit lackluster, but there's this huge train sequence that at the time had not been done before, which is brilliant, and it doesn't really lead anywhere, but the film is beautifully shot, beautifully acted, and leads you to Goldfinger. Like, they progressively get better from Dr. No. So Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and then Goldfinger. It's like better, better, better. Next on my list for James Bond rewatchability is The Living Daylights. Timothy Dalton's my favourite James Bond. Does that mean he stars in the best James Bond movies? Who knows? But The Living Daylights scores here. The reason for it is it's a bit too formula. He brings a grittiness that we see in License to Kill that needed to be exposed, but in The Living Daylights it's there, but not quite. It's still got a family turn to it. However, the theme song by Aha is phenomenal. The end scene with the aeroplane and all the heroin, brilliant. It's a step up from A View to a Kill. Next for me on the list is Casino Royale. This is a great film. The parkour scene at the beginning is spectacular. The intro, not so good. You know, the graphics, I didn't like that. The song's not bad, but it didn't make me want to see more Daniel Craig movies. It wasn't until I saw Skyfall, which is next on my list. Skyfall. This film is great the first time you watch it. The second time, it's good. The third, fourth, I'm on about the fifth time. You're looking at all the ridiculousness of Silver, how perfectly planned his execution of being taken into prison, being able to escape. It's all just ripped off from The Dark Knight. The Joker does exactly the same thing. And for me, it's why it's not higher up in the list. Do I like Skyfall? Yeah, it's good. Is he a great villain? Yeah. He's great. And that's why he scores so high. Because of him and his performance. James Bond himself, he's good in this, but it's all about the villain and this one and what he's going to do. What entertainment he can bring to the table. He's outshining James the whole way. It's a bit like when you watch a Batman film and you see the villains and it's all about the next villain. It's never about Batman. So that's where Skyfall sits here. I'm going to go on to GoldenEye next. GoldenEye is a superb film. The only thing that lets it down is it looks really dated. Some of the music choices in the score are not so good. Did it spawn an amazing game? Yeah. It came at the perfect time in the 90s. Everybody was longing for more James Bond. A new James Bond. We deserved it. And GoldenEye brought it. But Sean Bean, brilliant villain. Didn't see it coming when I was a child. I was a child when I saw it. And overall, it's up there. I can rewatch this one many a time and never get tired. Next on my list is the one-time deal, George Lazenby's on Her Majesty's Secret Service. This film breathes so much fresh air into the franchise. It's the first time we see James Bond really potentially falling in love. The theme tune doesn't even have a singer, and it doesn't matter because the music's that good. George Lazenby does a great job, and I would have loved to have seen more. Telly Savalas as Blofeld's pretty good too. It's hard to fault this film. Does it have a lull in the middle? A little bit. Does it get silly at times? Yeah. But where it really needs to hit hard, it does it. It does it well. It makes you feel emotional for James Bond. Now, next on my list is Goldfinger. Goldfinger is an absolute gem. Visually, it's stunning. Sean Connery looks his best. He looks like he's having such a good time. And they are on to gold, literal gold, with the pacing of this film, the villain, the acting, the gadgets, the music, the cinematography, the colour schemes are gorgeous. It feels like a modern classic. I would rather watch this than Diamonds Are Forever any day of the week. Like, that is a bad film. But this is poetry. It's happiness for the eyes. And the reason for that is because of how it all gels together. You can see they're having a good time. And you want to have a good time with them. And this is the reason why it scores so highly. And I'm going to say License to Kill. I love rewatching License to Kill because it's the first time you see James Bond go and do his own thing. He's not following any rules. He's so angry in this film that the passion behind his eyes carries such... You feel for him. You want him to succeed. You want him to destroy Sanchez. You want him to take apart his empire that he's built because he loves Felix and his wife Della. And he wants to get revenge for him because we've seen Felix over all these years. We care. We care that he's been injured, and we believe that James is going to get the revenge that he deserves. And then I've got No Time to Die. And the reason for this is I'm a sadist. It's an emotional film. Right from the get-go, you get to feel the pain that James is suffering. There's so much in No Time to Die to enjoy. You get to see the heartbreak of James Bond. Like, he's madly in love, and you get to see a little glimmer of how happy he is. But Madeline is suffering. She's suffering badly because she's haunted by something from the past, which is going to re-emerge in this film. And there's something about this one that just stands out to me, as in, it's sad, it's full of sorrow, and ultimately it kills off James Bond. And after the third time of watching it, it's my second favourite James Bond film. So number one, I'm going to say it's The Spy Who Loved Me. The reason for this, it's a feast for the eyes. It is a banquet. It is gorgeously filmed. It introduces Jaws. Jaws is introduced as this unstoppable killing machine, and it is so wonderful to see an adversary like this. It reminds me of my childhood. It is something that I could recommend to watch to anybody. So watch this. Tell me what you think. Is this what James Bond should be like? Epic. Because the film is epic. You are taken into a world which is so wide. Like, you get to see so much in this. The camera scopes that they're using. I don't know how they do it, but they make the world seem so vast and wide. And upon rewatching it and rethinking about it and listening to the score and listening to the dialogue, the way they talk to each other, the villain, this is my number one for rewatchability, because I did rewatch it twice in a week and I was entertained both times. So for me, at this moment in 2024, The Spy Who Loved Me is my number one James Bond film for rewatchability. I suggest you go and watch it, experience it for yourself, and see and understand why this is my number one film to go to recommend when it comes to James Bond. Hello, welcome back. If you've watched any of my videos, you'll know what this is like. But here I am to talk about one of the shows that kind of changed my life at just at the right time. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worst. And it is Dexter, starring Michael C. Hall. I first discovered this just around about the time season 6 was due to come out. So, I had seasons 1 to 5, somebody had downloaded them and given them to me and said, watch this show. And for some reason, for about 2 years, I just didn't do it. And just one day, I was single, bored, and on the surf. It was like pre-Netflix, or if it was around, I didn't have it. So I was watching what people had downloaded me, and I thought, I'll give it a go. So I watched the first episode, and boy, is it like an amazing show. Like something about it, I don't know if it's the Miami setting or the colours or the theme tune, but everything just seems to work in this show. Right from the get-go, you were introduced to Dexter, a very private man who is hiding something very sinister inside, and you get to find out about that very early on. Anyways, if you've seen Dexter, you know how it ends. If you haven't, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to rank all of the seasons, in my opinion, from worst to best. So, my least favourite season is season 6. Season 6 goes down the religious route of sinister behaviour and murderers, how they can use the power of religion to justify their actions and their crazy behaviour. The reason I didn't like this one is because the ball had already been dropped with season 5, and with this one, this becomes directionless. Characters become unlikable, the special effects become terrible. I hate to say it, but Colin Hanks in this, man, he is so bad. I just remember thinking, like, how can you go from the Trinity Killer to this and expect people to be as invested as there was in John Lithgow's performance as Arthur Mitchell? How is this an improvement? Because to give something of a lesser quality, which is what we got here, we got some ridiculous storylines. We get Deborah falling in love with Dexter, and this weird cliffhanger ending that people must have complained about because it just gets dropped. The love aspect from Deb. I mean, Dexter's a half-brother. Not even a half-brother. He's just whatever he is. Step-brother, found brother. He's not really blood-related. Adopted brother. But they've grown up together, you know, the brother and sister. Season 6, not good. Redeeming factors of season 6. The double kill in the first episode with the 2 ambulance drivers sticks in my mind. And that is pretty much it. I was burnt out. I didn't like it. So it's going here as the worst season of Dexter. Now, for me, season 8 is the next worst. They tried to shoehorn in some doctor, I can't remember her name, some doctor that had apparently helped raise Dexter and teach him the ways and stop him from being a murderer, or hiding the fact that he's got this dark passenger that by this point of the show you are so sick of hearing. Like, they're making being a murderer almost justifiable, and like he's become this superhero, and the show ends badly as well. Like, look, spoiler alert, Dexter, Deb dies. Dexter survives, but not in a good way. Like, there is just something so unsatisfying with the ending of Dexter season 8. Like, the killer that is in it, which is her son, I believe. Like, how many killers are there in this show? Like, everyone's just killing everybody by this point. It's crap. It's crap. But it's not as crap as season 6. Okay. Next for me is season 5. Now, with the amazing season of season 4, with the Trinity Killer, season 5 was always going to struggle to try and recaptivate the audience. We had the pinnacle there. I talk about this all the time. This is like, season 4 is like the end game, the Marvel end game. And then it's like, we can't top ourselves because what they did with season 4 is phenomenal. I use that word so much because it is. It's the 4th season. And you're more invested at this point than you are in season 1. And that's how a show should be. You shouldn't be wishing for it to end. You should be salivating. Reason season 4 is so good, I will talk about later. But season 5, we're introduced to Lumen, played by Julia Stiles, which is a new temporary love interest. The problem with it was, I watched season 1 to 5 back to back. Now, if you get that year gap in between, maybe you'll be satisfied with watching season 5. You've got Johnny Lee Miller as the killer. They're killing girls and putting them in vats of acid. And that's a fine storyline. But it's no follow-up to what we've just had with the Trinity Killer. The Trinity Killer and what has happened between Dexter and the Trinity Killer is not recaptured in this. It's like a new turn. We've got to accept that certain cast members are gone, like Rita. And it's just thrown straight back into Dexter killing again, justifying his actions, and I'm done by this point. I'm done. It's like, why have you continued this show? Like, you're not bringing us anything new, besides the fact that he has to be a father and look after Harrison. He loses the 2 kids of Rita's because obviously they're not his, so those disappear as well. So like, if you grew any attachment to these people, they're all gone. The writers and creators want you to just forget about those people because we're moving on. I can't do that, I'm afraid. And season 5 really suffers in terms of writing, quality and fatigue. So that's why season 5 goes here. Next. This is tricky now, but I'm going to go with season 3. With the wonderful season of 2, we get thrown into season 3. The Bay Harbor Butcher storyline's kind of been buried a little bit. And we're introduced to Jimmy Smits, who plays a fine villain counterpart to Dexter. But the killer aspect of season 3 is put to the back. It's some tree cutting guy that you don't really get introduced to like you do with Arthur Mitchell, the Trinity Killer, who I always bring up. Or Hannah McKay. She's great. We'll talk about her very soon. So season 3 kind of drops the ball. We lose Dokes and we get him replaced. We get Dokes replaced with Quinn, who is a love interest for Deborah. Dokes was too big of a character to be able to just replace. Quinn is so mediocre as a replacement that when he gets airtime, you're not interested in it. It's just not very good. So season 3, and Debs is in a relationship with some dude, and by the end of it, she's not. So yeah, season 3, it's not as good as the rest. So it's still watchable, still likable, but it's a step down from season 1 and 2. Next for me is Dexter's The New Blood. This could have been fantastic. The time gap of 10 years was great. But what we are thrown into is more of the same. As in, Dexter's son arrives, Harrison, and we're supposed to care about him. He's a lot older, but we just don't. I don't. He's annoying. Dexter has got a perfect little quiet life and things are going fine, but then a murderer shows up and you get more of the same of what you've seen before, and maybe that's what people wanted. But the way the show gets wrapped up by killing Dexter, his son kills Dexter, and it could have been so much better. Angel is on the case with Dexter. Why not Angel, who has a reason to kill Dexter, because a personal reason, because he knows him and he knows how he betrayed him. But no, we get Harrison, who we are just introduced to in this season, and we're supposed to have the same dynamic, the same care for what could have been if Angel would have done it, or if anybody from the first seasons would have come and killed Dexter. And it just lacks. It had the potential to be such a great show, but Harrison gets way too much airtime. Dexter has been away for too long to treat him like this. And for me, it's not as good as the rest. It was a bold attempt, but not enough. Next for me, because this is where the good seasons are coming in, is season 7. This tries to restore what season 6 damaged, which was the reputation of where the show was going. It brings it back by deleting the Deborah loving Dex storyline, because that just wasn't washing with people. I can only assume that. And it's like, you know what, we've had a think, and we're going to introduce a new actual potential love interest, and that's Hannah McKay. Hannah McKay is interesting because 1, she's beautiful, and 2, Dexter actually seems to have feelings for her. This inept, emotionless man who seems to not care about anything suddenly has desire in his eyes. There's attraction beyond anything you've seen before with Dexter. The passion. He wants to learn more from her. He wants to make love to her. He wants to be with her. You can feel like there's emotion developing in Dexter. He is a father now, and he seems to be passing his kid on to a babysitter in every episode. Like, how he can afford to pay for a babysitter and go to work. Like, you're supposed to suspend your disbelief by this point. Now, the good parts is the Ukrainian gay love story, The Gangster. I think that this is great. It's wrapped up very early, which is a different kind of tack for this show. As in, we don't have a villain of the show, of the season. It's just a part of it, and I kind of enjoyed this aspect of it. I thought this show's coming back on the up, and unfortunately we got given season 8, and I've already mentioned how bad that one was. So this is kind of hard, but I'm going to go with season 1, and the reason for it is it's great. It does introduce us to these characters, but it's not until season 2 where I am absolutely blown away. However, it's great. I've watched this season 2 to 3 times, and I find each time I watch it, I get something different. I do feel like the fact that the murderer in this season is his birth brother, I find that a little bit far-fetched, to be honest. And I think the writing improves with season 2. And that is the season I'm going to go on to next. Season 2. Season 2 is one of my personal favourites because all the elements from 1 have been explored, and it's now all eyes are on Dexter. The reason that this season is not my number 1 season is because of Lila, I can't remember. It's that annoying British actress who loves to take her clothes off in everything she's in. And in this season, she is disturbingly annoying. Like, you can feel that Dexter has had enough of her once he's made love to her and cheated on Rita with her. The viewer is left wanting her gone. Like, she's just vile. And she's the weak link in the show, because the Bay Harbor Butcher storyline is so good. By the end of season 2, you're not knowing how they're going to wrap this up. Dexter is going to get caught. Dokes is onto him. The only way they can end this season is by killing Dokes, because he knows that Dexter is the Bay Harbor Butcher. But at the time, I couldn't see it coming. And I thought, is Dokes going to keep this secret? But no, he gets killed. Phenomenal season 2. Like, it's so good. It makes you feel panic. Worry. You worry for Dexter. You don't want him to get caught. This show's just kicking off. The Bay Harbor Butcher storyline would have been great as like a finale season, but they use it straight away in season 2, and it works well. Now, my number 1 season, if you haven't guessed, is season 4. I'm going to list the reasons why it's so good. Okay, we're at our 4th season. We realise there's a bit of a trend happening, and that is there are killers in this show, and we're introduced very early on to a celebrity killer, like a guest appearance of John Lithgow. Now, he plays Arthur Mitchell. It's a name I've already mentioned. He plays him spectacularly. Like, you believe that he is a complete and utter psychopath because you see it. But then he's also a family man. This season is almost flawless. The only weak link in this season is he has a daughter that is a reporter, and she's a journalist, and she's kind of working for him, that he just doesn't care for. That's a bit far-fetched. Now, let's go back to the good bits. He's classed as the Trinity Killer. The reality is he actually kills 4 people, but they have labelled him the Trinity Killer because the pattern of behaviour is that he kills 3 people in this specific certain way, in this specific time, and he repeats these killings because when he was a child, he witnessed something that traumatised him. Now, Dexter wants to learn from Arthur Mitchell, so he pretends to be somebody called Carl Butler. This is all from memory because I love this season. And John Lithgow's character, Arthur Mitchell, is hiding behind this like foundation that builds things, this charity organisation, but the reality is he is one sick puppy. Like, you get to witness some bludgeonings with a hammer, and he has no remorse, and Dexter just wants to learn from this man. And one of the best episodes ever is when he is inside Arthur Mitchell's house and they're all having dinner, and a switch comes on for Arthur Mitchell and he starts swearing, and the scene is absolutely phenomenal. It completely makes your hair stand on end thinking, oh, what the hell is going to happen here? And Dexter unleashes on Arthur Mitchell, and really he should have killed him right here and right then, because what Arthur goes and does beautifully is take away the only thing that Dexter cares about, and that is Rita. He has a respect for Rita. You get to see Dexter fall in love with her, kind of, but in as much as he possibly can, and he knows that he is lacking, and he tries to respect her and look after her and be the partner that she deserves, because she's had a bad life and it's not her fault of what Dexter is and what he's become. And Arthur Mitchell takes that all away in one of the best finale episodes I've ever seen in my life. This was a cliffhanger episode. This was the end game, the penultimate, not the penultimate, the ultimate. You cannot get any better than this. This is the equivalent of when Negan smashes Glenn's head in season 7 of The Walking Dead. You are not going to make me any more surprised after what you have just shown me. And I wanted more, and what I got was season 5, and it is weak compared to this season. There is a song in this by Frankie Avalon called Venus that as soon as I heard this in the show, I have had on my playlist for at least 10 years now, because it reminds me of how good this program really is. The disturbing scenes of him capturing little boys, making them wear the pajamas and reliving the youth that Arthur Mitchell has had is absolutely, it's just breathtaking. It's so scary, it's so chilling, and this is why it's my number 1 season. It's just gorgeous. I didn't want it to end. I never do. And if I recommend this show to anybody, sometimes I say stop at season 4 and don't watch any more. You're not going to be any more entertained than you are here. So that concludes my list. What's your list? Do you agree with what I've picked? If you don't, I don't really care. Thank you.